A AA Elder Scrolls-like game that, dare I say, has better writing than the aforementioned series of games? You better believe it. What's going on, you guys? Kintzugi here, and this is my brief review of Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. So let's go over the main points as to why I really enjoyed myself with this game, and at the end, I'll give you the main pros that we go over, as well as some of the cons that you definitely should know about. So beginning with combat, you guys. The combat in this game is not groundbreaking, but that doesn't mean it's not good. It is simply a straightforward combat experience. You've got your health bar, you've got your mana bar, you've got your stamina bar, and some pretty straightforward skill trees as well. I personally chose to play as a mage summoner, which just means I got to summon minions to fight by my side, and boy howdy, were they effective. I quickly learned in this game that magic was definitely OP, but in the beginning you will run into some mana regen troubles, but you can easily cure that with a little bit of points added to your spiritual skill tree. As you will probably hear a bunch when it comes to Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon, this game certainly does play like Elder Scrolls games, but I would actually argue it plays very similarly to another game that took inspiration from Elder Scrolls games, which is Avowed. So if you guys were big fans of Avowed's combat gameplay, this combat is going to make you feel right at home. It starts off extremely hard in the beginning, but you quickly become powerful after doing a bunch of side content. Doing the MSQ exclusively could make for a difficult combat playthrough, but I personally didn't experience that myself because I had all intentions to do as much side content as I could. Now I'm going to make my final decision on this when it comes to the end of the video in the pros and cons section, but as you progress in this game, it does become extremely easy. And what I mean by that is simply you feel like a god, and some people will really like that, but some people will definitely be turned away by the fact that the game gets too easy too quickly. However, I will say, even when you are feeling like a god, the game will surprise you with some enemies that are capable of one-shotting you. Now, this might be because I was playing a mage and I had a low health bar, but nevertheless, you still have to stay on your toes because there are actually enemies out there that are way harder than you could ever imagine that might sneak up on you in the night. Weird Night, anybody? If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, trust me, you will soon enough, and come back here and leave a comment on the video about how your experience went with that guy. And as I said before, I was playing a summoner mage build, and like I said, the magic in this game is truly fun to use, and it does feel very overpowered. All right, next we have side content, which is probably the most exciting part of this game. The side quests are truly what makes this game so special. The voice acting is so diverse and effective, and the stories can be both goofy and serious. I'm not kidding, you guys. There's a point where you have to help some guy who's a chef who's dead or maybe not dead, and then he ends up giving you a certain spell that can turn people or animals or beasts into cheese, and then you can pick up the cheese, and then you can eat the cheese. Therefore, you're eating your enemies that are cheese, and it's actually kind of amazing. With the side questing, there's such minimal fetch quests and more intentional ones with mini stories, which makes it a more fulfilling experience. There are guilds you can join. The two guilds I found during my playthrough was Alchemist Guild and the Geographer's Guild. And really, when it comes to an old school RPG like this, the best part about it is the fact that you are rewarded for wandering around and exploring the map. Better yet, you're rewarded for also talking to random NPCs. Talking to random NPCs usually helps you discover new quests or fun dialogue, and wandering the map is worth your time because you'll stumble upon new creatures or hidden caves, for example. When it comes to wandering around all three maps in this game, aka the 3-act system, first map is Act 1, second map is Act 2, third map is Act 3. There was never a time where I felt like I was wasting my time, and that is always something I'm looking for in an RPG I'm playing. I do feel like Act 1 and 2, the Horns of the South and Kunakt, were probably the most dense with content. However, in Act 3, which is something I learned about before I started this game, it did seem like the amount of content dropped off, and the map, although beautiful, snowy, and a little bit more vertical to scale, it was a little bit hard to get around, and when you did get around it, it was a little less rewarding with things to do. All in all, that Act 3 Forlorn Swords map just seemed like a nice conclusion to the game that really tried to fast track you on the main storyline. Which brings me to the main story quest. Guys, like I said, the writing in this game, it is top notch. It's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you cry. It's going to make you do a weird face like, because things are weird. And that's what we love about games. We want them to be serious and we want them to be unserious because that's what life is all about, okay? The contrast is beautiful when it comes to writing like that in these games. At least I'm gonna speak for myself. If you guys have differing opinions, or if you have any opinions at all on this game, be sure to leave your thoughts in those comments down below. And also hit that like button. It's easy, it's free, and let's get back to the video. Okay, so the main story quest. It's well done. It's pretty simple with plenty of player choice to allow you to mold your experience throughout the game, and it ends with many final decisions to be made, which provide you with one of, I believe it's like 12 endings this game has. There might even be a secret one, or that one is included in those 12s. If I'm wrong on that, just correct me in the comments down below, but nevertheless, your choices you make in this game really do matter. When you complete the game, it does provide you with a nice summary of everything that happened based on the decisions you made. And that doesn't just include the decisions you made in the main story quest, but also decisions you made while stumbling upon random characters throughout the game and random side content that you might have done. It's always so nice to feel like all the things you chose to do, or not chose to do maybe for that matter, are actually considered in the greater story and the greater world that you're playing in. Now, I'm not going to go into the main story quest too much here because obviously I'm not trying to give you guys spoilers, but just know this. Your decisions matter. The characters are actually really hard to get a read on, which makes you want to be their friend or their enemy, and you don't know until the very end, and I think that's a beautiful thing. All right, and that brings us to our pros and cons list, you guys, starting with the pros. First and foremost, I can't understate how good the side content and exploration in this game is. This is a semi-open world game that truly rewards you for your time wandering around, and the side content, the amount of NPCs I would just randomly talk to and then find myself going off on a side quest for, and or talking to random NPCs and just discovering how intriguing they were. I mean, let's put it this way. I made it a focus to do as much side content as possible, and from what my community has told me, there's still so much more side content that I missed, even with the intention of doing that. The next pro we've got is the voice acting. They are super diverse in the accents, and what I love most about talking to characters in this game is that the game doesn't shy away from taking its time to deliver dialogue in order to get the emotion across, and I think that's very important in games like these. Our third pro of the list is the gear and transmog. Now, I played as a mage, so I didn't experience upgrading my equipment too often, or at least I should say my weapon equipment, but I did pick up a lot of really cool looking gear that was some pretty unique and interesting stat upgrades in terms of creating unique builds as a melee character. And as for the transmog, it came with the new update that just recently came out, patch 1.1, and let me tell you something, the transmog might be a little expensive, but it is so worth it. A lot of the gear in this game does look amazing. I would say there's more gear that looks truly incredible to use from the beginning of the game to the end of the game versus gear that is just super mundane. And the final pro we have here is price. You guys, the game is $50 in 2025. As for me, if a game is under $60 and gives you 50 plus hours of gameplay and gameplay that you enjoyed, I think that is more than enough value to make it worth your dollar. And let's move on to the cons of the game. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, I said I would decide in the pros and cons section on this topic, and I made my decision. The difficulty scaling in this game is not that great. I personally don't find myself enjoying feeling like a god super early and often because I want there to be a difficulty to make me fear the world a little bit. And in this game, in doing all of the side content, I found myself just feeling like a god all the way up until the final quest of the game. Now, it was still enjoyable and there were still moments that were difficult, but all in all, I would have wished for a little bit more difficulty. And the next con is jank and frame drops. I mean, listen, you guys, this is a AA game and it definitely focused on the quality of the writing and the experience more than it did in terms of the mechanical polish of the game, so to speak. There were times where I had enemies floating in the air, or times when my summons would start to multiply beyond how much I should have. And I would say the most alarming thing I experienced was frame drops. However, let it be known, my entire time playing this game, there was never a crash or a moment where I felt like the game was even close to unplayable. When it comes to frame drops, sometimes it is a little little bit jolting, but it definitely wasn't anything to make me feel like I wanted to stop playing. And my last con for the game, which honestly I feel like I'm nitpicking here, is that the main quest content took a quality dip just before the final quest. And what I mean by that is what I said earlier in the video. In Act 3, I feel like there is less content, but one of the core quest lines that you must do, which is right before the final quest, I found to be a little bit disappointing when it came to the quality of content that I had experienced up until that point. It just simply started to introduce fetch quests that really felt chore-like, as if I was just checking off boxes just to get myself to the final quest of the game. So that's my pros and cons list. If you guys have anything to add to it, leave it in the comments down below. All in all, Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon is a fantastic B-tier Scrolls-like RPG. It provides tried and true combat and exploration with a straightforward character progression system. And where it lacks polish, graphically and mechanically at times, it does make up for and then some with its extremely well-written main story and side content. The game does a great job at making every NPC interaction feel important and weighty. The writing can be dark, wacky, and at times, it reminds you that it is indeed a mature RPG. Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon is approachable for those who don't have too much time on their hands, and enough of a dopamine hit for those looking to invest many hours beyond the story into it. The combat is straightforward and surprisingly smooth for a game with so much jank, and the writing and quest design is the true star of the show here. For its retail price of $50 on Steam at the time of recording this video, this game offers a complete experience of roughly 50 to 60 plus hours of gameplay, and has also been updated with its first major patch in September of 2025 to now include a new game plus, as well as added content, performance improvements, transmog, and much more. Sometimes you just have to ask yourself, are you having fun? And when it came to Tainted Grail: The Fall of Avalon, I had a lot of fun. And that's where I'm gonna leave you guys with this one. Thank you so much for watching. As always, it feels so good to be back here on the channel after a 6-month hiatus. I am so happy to be speaking with you guys again on our streams, which, just an update for you guys, we stream Thursdays and Saturdays. I'll push that schedule right here for you. And until next time you find people on the internet, I'll see you soon. Peace.